Good afternoon. I believe that's called Knob Butte over there. But I'm going to break here to talk some anime. Planetes. A few months back, you might have recorded a few news reports about a collision of two satellites in space. It seems an Iridium communications satellite bumped into an obsolete Soviet Union satellite, and the result was another dead satellite, and even more junk floating around in Earth's orbit. That reminded me of a sci-fi anime series from a few years ago that dealt with exactly that, space debris. The Greeks had a word for it. When they saw a few stars in the night sky that didn't stay in one place like the others, they called them wanderers, planetes. Manga author Makoto Yukimura used the Greek word for the title of his space-age story of a few lost people wandering about in space. In 2003, Planetes became an anime TV series. Set in 2075, the anime centers on a few members of the debris section, people whose job it is to track down and remove space debris from Earth's orbit and make space safer for satellites and manned vehicles alike. Space garbage men, basically. They're based in an orbital space station, ISPV-7, managed by the far-flung Technora Corporation. Hachirara Hoshino is one of the debris haulers. He's more commonly known by the nickname Hachimaki, blending his nickname with that of the traditional headband he wears. Ai Tanabe is the new member of the section, just arrived from Earth into space for the first time. The series begins with her arrival. The anime follows her as she learns the ropes around the station and her job, under the guidance of Hachimaki, who becomes her trainer and then partner. You might think from this that Tanabe is the central character, but the series is always using her to introduce us to the setting. Once the introductions are out of the way, the series will slowly shift its focus a little more towards Hachimaki, without forgetting Tanabe for sure. Planetes is one of those series that intermixes both comedy and drama. At the start, it's mostly lighthearted fun, sometimes descended to silliness. Later on, it tightens up and gets much more serious, even nasty. In the end, it's all about the characters. Hachimaki and Tanabe are an interesting team. Hachimaki is cynical, jaded, insensitive, emotionally closed, and mostly angry. Tanabe is open, enthusiastic, idealistic, and naively optimistic, even about Hachimaki. This friction over their worldview helps center the story as they work and live together in the vastness of space.
Oh, right!
Listen, I'll do all the basic work here. You just try to stay out of the way till I'm done. You copy?
I copy.
We've got debris that has moving parts this time. If you don't want to get killed by having your face smashed in, don't open your face guard.
Right, I copy. I can't handle watching things on a monitor.
Planetes isn't just about those two characters. It has a large supporting cast, including other members of the debris section and the space station staff in general. It won't be long before the setting expands to include both the Moon and Earth, which both get several visits throughout the series and each have their own supporting casts to deal with. The shifting relationships among all these characters form a fascinating backdrop to the series finale. Plus, there'll be a plethora of visitors to the space station and brief encounters on the Moon and Earth, some of them being more interesting than others. Planetes is really uneven in the early going. It starts by introducing a lot of nice characters, but then it seems to get stalled, and stories that don't seem to be leading us anywhere. They really are going someplace, but we just can't see where it's going at the time. Episode 6 seemed to be the worst of the lot. It's the first trip to the moon that gives us a gang of unemployed moon ninjas. It's just plain silly. But then the next episode introduces us to Nono, an engaging lunar resident who makes Pollyanna seem pessimistic. Other than episode 6, there was nothing really wrong with any of the early episodes. They just didn't seem to fully engage my interest. It isn't until the second half of the series that Planetes really picks up a semblance of a running storyline. Hachimaki leaves the debris section to try out for a new assignment on mankind's first attempt to visit Jupiter. Hachimaki is a problematic character. He was never really likable, and as he becomes more obsessed with his new ambition, he becomes even harder to like. The only reason I cared about him as we went through that part of the story is because Tanabe kept caring about him.
そんなこと言って受からなかったらどうするんだ。どうやって暮らしていく。田辺さんは親にも説明しないといけないだろう。そんなにいろんなこと考えられるかよ。俺は俺だけのためにフォンブラフに乗る。賃金とか会社とか仲間とかいちいち何かを言い訳にすんな。
The final half-dozen episodes finally reward our patience by pulling all the threads together into one major storyline. And it's a plot line that can be quite cruel to some of the characters we've come to like. Both Hachimaki and Tanabe will be tested in matters of life and death. There's an old proverb, character is what you are in the dark, and it gets very dark in the vacuum of space. The ending will need a full episode afterwards of denouement to clean up the lives of the survivors, and it has a lengthy closing credit finale in the episode to give us a whole bunch of quick shots of some of the minor characters who we briefly met during the show. I have to admit that by the end I was sufficiently engrossed in the characters that I really cared how the series was going to come out. I also have to mention the lovely artwork and the attention to the realities of space and orbital mechanics that the director, Goro Taniguchi, has infused the series. He clearly reviewed a lot of old historical footage to give a very realistic portrayal of what life in space might be like, and he has a lot of fun dealing with the zero-gravity environment in space. And when they visit the moon, he has a lot of fun with the 1/6 lunar gravity, too. I'm afraid I'm a space geek who followed the early space exploration from 1957 Sputnik through Yuri Gagarin and Alan Shepard, John Glenn, and Neil Armstrong. So I give this anime some credits for being so meticulous in that. The animation is by Sunrise, and it's crisp and clear and does a nice job of smooth movement. Whoever did the visual compositions did a nice job of integrating the designs of the sets with the themes. For example, it often matters who's posed in light and who's posed in shadow, or what's going on when the sun rises or sets. The background music by Kotaro Nakagawa is better at being quiet than exciting, and the soundtrack isn't afraid to let space be the quiet place it really is. The lively opening and closing songs are by Mikio Sakai, and there are a couple of internal, nice, gentle vocals by Hitomi Koroishi inside. By the way, all three of those composer-performers worked together with the director Goro Noguchi on Code Geass later on. Bandai's English dub is fairly decent. They made a significant effort to match the English voices to the environment they're in with sound effects, so that radio chatter really sounds like radio chatter. And if someone's in a small enclosed space, they added a little echo so it actually sounds like a small enclosed space. A lot of English dubbing doesn't bother with those kind of details. As a piece of trivia, the ADR director was Tony Oliver, who voiced Rick Hunter in Streamline's Robotech many years ago, and he does one of the commentary tracks in the extras. In some ways, this series reminded me of Pat Labor with a large ensemble cast engaged in dangerous but important work while focusing on the characters. The uneven nature of the series poses a dilemma when I tried to assign it a simple rating. I thought the last part of the series told an interesting story. It just took too long and a very uninteresting route to get there. And I really appreciated the effort that went into depicting life in space on a realistic level, especially the zero-G work and the lovely artwork. But Planetes lives up to its name, and it wanders all over the place. So I give it 3.5 stars, averaging a 4-star ending with a mediocre middle game. Bandai's released the entire 26 episodes of the series on 6 DVDs. Half a dozen episodes have commentary tracks by the Japanese director Goro Taniguchi, screenwriter Ichiro Iguchi, and the Japanese voice actors for Hachimaki, Tanabe, and others. Unfortunately, these conversations are mostly devoid of insight into the series or characters, and they never discuss the actual video they're commenting on. The cast certainly seems to be having a lot of fun, though. I think alcohol is involved. The original individual DVD releases included bonus discs on the first 3 DVD sets. These included the usual designs, sketches, and some Japanese audio dramas for the series, plus interviews with the English ADR director and voice cast, and an interview with NASA's orbital debris trackers, and even some photos of some actual space debris. I don't know whether any of these extras, or how many actually made it under the economy box set. Thanks for listening.